Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Vishal and working as a senior medical advisor at Walter Kushner. At the outset, I would like to thank the Delhi Gynecology Forum, Delhi Medical Association, Delhi Medical Council for giving Walter Kushner this opportunity to organize the webinar on work-life balance to be healthy, happy, and wealthy. I take this honor and privilege to welcome the speakers, the chairperson, and all the participants for this important webinar. I would not add too much and hand over the session to the faculty. So,
thank you so much, Dr. Vishal, and our gratitude to you for giving us this platform today on a very special day. It is, as we all know, WHO Day, and the theme is health for all, equality for all. So fairer health for everybody. And I would like, it's a great honor for me, a very high honor to welcome Dr. Sharda Jain ma'am, DGF Supremo, the teacher of teachers here, who has organized this program today, and my co-anchor, Dr. Dipti Nab madam. And I would like to extend a very warm welcome to our very honored experts today. The very senior doctors, Dr. Harish Gupta sir, Dr. Girish Tyagi sir, Dr. Yogesh Agarwal, and Dr. Shama Batra, dear friend, and Dr. Sunil Singhal sir. Today, the first topic will be Dr. Prabhu Mishra's What is New in Anti-Aging and Longevity. Let's develop an interest in regenerative medicine. My personal experience with regenerative medicine has been phenomenal. It has been like a ray of hope. And the first time I remember I saw this was when I saw Dr. Sharda Jain ma'am talking about and discussing these procedures. So thank you, Dr. Prabhu Mishra and Dr. Sharda Jain ma'am, for introducing us to this wonderful concept. Dr. Prabhu Mishra is made his own place with his efforts in this field of stem cells and anti-aging in India. It is not just recognized nationally today, but also internationally. He is recognized for his endeavors. He is the president, CEO, and founder of StemGen Therapeutics and managing director of StemMax Research Therapeutics, and the president of International Association of Stem Cell and Regenerative Medicine, with the ex-secretary general of Stem Cell Society of India, founder president of Anti-Aging Foundation. With a very solid academic background, graduate of chemistry honors with diploma in chemoinformatics, informatics, and a postgraduate diploma in molecular biomedical technology. And he has been a researcher all over the world, from France to USA, and has worked in Europe, Asia, Australia. I mean, there's no country, I think, Dr. Prabhu, that you have not been or had an association with. So it is a great honor to welcome you today for the program.
Thank you, Dr. Sivani, for this wonderful introduction. And first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Sharda ma'am for this platform to share some of my experience in last few years. And no doubt the first center we have started in India along with ma'am only and it was all sudden program. And so this is what we have learned. It's a continuous learning process. So I'll give some of the basic outline today about the anti-aging and longevity, because this is the most debatable subject of nowadays. Is my screen visible to all of you?
Yeah. Yes. Some disturbance in the audio.
Now it's better?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. So basically today I'm going to talk on what advances in longevity and anti-aging. If you'll see the basics, some of the topic is in last decade, some of the advances in longevity and anti-aging was like slowing the structural breakdown of skin and thwarting the development of age-related disease and many other degenerative conditions which are aging disease of the scientific interest that have broad impacts on human health and the medicine. The majority of anti-aging research has focused on understanding and finding ways to manipulate the metabolic pathways that are implicated the progressive decline of biological function associated with senescence, because the primary signals of the aging is the metabolic syndrome. So this work has produced substantial evidence which illustrating like direct effect of health on the aging process, including like some of the naturally and lifetime regular exercise, calorie restrictions, many regime like rapamycin, then stem cells came. So these kind of advances, like if you'll see one of the area into research progressive of aging or geriatric or anti-aging, what you say, or the longevity, that concern the generation of free radicals that causes oxidative stress. And these reactions in which free radicals are released within cells or extracellular cells. So these significantly quantities can result in the oxidation of proteins and other cellular components, which can trigger programmed cell death, that is apoptosis. Although natural antioxidant molecules occur in cells and act to scavenge potentially harmful radicals, the development of antioxidant drugs to facilitate this process has been... Yes.
Are you there?
Am I audible?
Come.
Yeah, I'm here only.
Yeah.
Please put off your audio, please.
Some of the compounds, if you'll see the aging advances like retinol, you all have seen, vitamin E have been found to combat skin aging by stimulating the growth factors, and many new collagen or neocollagenesis for the skin roughness, wrinkling. Then another advances came after that, calorie restriction and longevity relationship. The use of drug designed to increase lifespan in human, like if you'll see the many concerns, artificial prolongation of the life, or influence of cellular and metabolic process undergoing age-related diseases, or some of the plant-based diet, like Dr. Gundry, the plant paradox. So this kind of advances came. Then another advances came in longevity or anti-aging is sirtuin. Sirtuins, we all had, like calorie restrictions can activate certain genes known as sirtuins, which are SIRT2 in yeast and SIRT1 in mice and SIRT1 in humans. So this basically found in many like C. elegans as well as the fruit fly Drosophila. Then many actually basically their function, these are act as an anti-aging gene. And these genes, once mutation or acquisition of mutation happen, the faster the aging facilitates, the faster aging rate happens due to of the sirtuins. Then rapamycin came. Rapamycin, like one of the compound we call sirolimus, it increases the lifespan of adult in many animal models. Then that drug came as a rapamycin for anti-aging. Then some of the city of the talk was stem cells from last 1 decade, and we'll talk in our slides about the stem cells. Then epigenetics came, and nowadays another advances is exosome and epigenetics. So this is what I'm going to talk about today's slides in today's overview of the presentation. What next, apart from the calorie restrictions, holistic approach, yoga, meditations, these all Sarda ma'am is also going to cover on that. So what the another advances, what the another phase? We don't call this anti-aging because we doesn't achieve our longevity of 122-year age of our DNA. So what should be the basically age gracefully, age beautifully, or the disease-free or slow aging? So this what next regime? So these are some of the advances after the stem cells, even exosome and epigenetics and their role in aging. So nowadays it's a very debatable topics, exosome, and many companies are working in this field, especially what exosome. Exosome at name clarify, it's extracellular vesicles of endosomal origin that's between 30 to 100 nanometer in size. Because this area of medicine, if you'll see the regenerative medicine at name signify, it based on the principle of repair, regeneration, and restoration. So it not only encompasses with stem cell, it encompasses with biomaterials, medical devices, tissue engineering like scaffolds. Then The challenges was this field was the cell dose. What kind of the cell route of administration, especially for neurodegenerative conditions. So this nanomedicine came into the picture. After nanomedicine, this molecular medicine came, like even 2020 Nobel Prize of Chemistry for CAR-T therapy goes to this, CAR-T, chimeric antigen receptor T-cell engineering. So this kind of advances came in this field, and exosome is next generation, we can say. It's derived from the peripheral blood, derived from bone marrow, derived from adipose. So it's a next generation of the stem cells. Stem cells, it's not cells free. Exosome are cell free compounds. So even it autologous or allogenic, it hardly matters. It can be used from either autologous source or allogenic source. And these work like as a carrier vesicles. So it will work like as a therapeutic drug delivery as well as the diagnostic materials. So the exosome, these vesicles can be secreted by a wide range of cells where their composition will depend strongly on their cell of origin. Some of the features, if you'll see here in this, I'm not going into so much of molecular details, especially this metabolic syndrome, this kind of disease, we called it this is the disease of modern civilization, because epigenetics contributes 85%, and remaining 15% contains our lifestyle in the disease, because these all diseases are basically, if you'll see the 5 region, the insulin resistance, strong anti-inflammations, and the leaky gut. And apart from that, the oxidative stress, overeating, stress, these all free radicals, these all contribute to the faster aging. So if you'll see the pathways, the cascade of this aging here, if you'll see this structure for the antigen, how it works, extracellular domains, so virtually all mammalian cells that have been studied exhibit exosome-based communications. What is paracrine effect? Because exosome works on the paracrine signals, because it works like a cell-to-cell communications. One cell's giving the signal to their neighboring cells. So it works on the basis of the paracrine signaling. So how it works? How it contributes to the aging? So exosome functions is basically, it's a physiological and pathophysiological conditions. It also called extracellular vesicles, sometimes it also called the secretomes, sometimes it also called the pericytes. Extracellular vesicle act as a multimolecular messenger by an autocrine and paracrine manner, and proximal or distal from their site of origin. So whatever the route of administration challenge, it can prevent from that. Even it will work like as a therapeutic drug delivery system. We can encapsulate stem cells or any therapeutic material in that, and it's a nano inside, and we can put exactly on the site. So it will work like as a sustained release of axons. Especially in diabetes, there are many clinical trials, or even ischemic cardiomyopathy or dilated cardiomyopathy. People are using, instead of going the surgical interventions, many clinical trials are going with this exosome-based drug delivery, exosome-based stem cells delivery in case of diabetes or ischemic cardiomyopathy. So similar in extracellular vesicles from cancer cells, multiple features have been attributed to immune cells, extracellular vesicles, and this involves their role as mediators of the immune response. If you'll see the biogenesis, it's extracellular vesicles. So it lies on the extracellular region. So invagination of the cell membrane, the inward budding of the cell membrane results in the formation of early endosome, and then early endosome eventually mature into late endosome, multivesicular bodies. Within the MBVs, the exosome originate and intraluminal vesicles, and then it releases the exosome from the ILVs. And this works like a biomarker for many of the disease, and it can be separated from serum, plasma, urine, seminal fluid, cerebrospinal fluid, saliva, tears, breast milk. So source is not a problem. We can isolate the exosome, any of the source. So it's not like that you need the liposuction for that or the bone marrow aspiration. Any fluid exosome can be separated. And this ubiquity makes extracellular vesicle-based diagnostic that much more practical in terms of cause of use, speed, and minimally invasive procedure. Many groups are doing studies like those who have the insulin resistance. They are measuring, okay, they are taking the samples and measuring, okay, in the night when they are sleeping, in 1 hour, how much is insulin secreted or the secreted by the, and which interval, what is the production. So on the basis of that, they are measuring the concentrations, and in against of that, they are giving the quantification of the stem cell dose. So this kind of development in with exosome in diabetes happens. Of exosome beyond diagnostics, if you'll see, like the first diagnostic, it worked like a biomarkers, and then therapeutic, it can be worked like as an autologous as well as the allogenic. Because it's the extracellular materials, it doesn't possess any allogenicity or antigenicity. This is the isolation protocol from the peripheral blood. It's simply, most of the time, is a centrifuge steps and some of the wash with phosphate buffer saline. It's not just like a robotic science unit, but it's a time consuming. The exosome separation time is around 4 to 5 hours. Then exosome as cell-free therapeutics. Among exosomes derived from various cellular origin, mesenchymal stem cell derived exosome have gained great attention due to their immunomodulatory and regenerative functions. If you'll see the current regulatory scenario, autologous minimal manipulation, same sitting surgery is in between of doctor and patient through the informed consent. Apart from that, if you are culturing, if you are expanding the cells, if you are adding any chemical, reagents, enzymes, you are modifying the nature, you need to go through the clinical trials. Because most of the indication and the full proven is only hematological conditions. Apart from that, only autologous minimal manipulated is in current regulatory draft guidelines is permissible. Remaining is a part of the clinical trials. MSc, if you see sometimes, people say we are doing the mesenchymal stem cells or mesenchymal based exosome. I'll tell you, there are many you can get the procedure called apheresis. You can get from the plasma exchange, then you can separate the mononuclear cells, which are also called hematopoietic stem cells. If you are simply centrifuging it or sedimenting it, you are getting the platelet-rich plasma. Similarly, from the bone marrow, if you are simply centrifuged it, concentrated it, that's not a stem cell. That's basically part of a cell-based therapy that is called bone marrow aspirated concentrate. You are yourself putting like it's a minimally manipulated cells. You have not added any enzyme, you have not cultured, you have not did any specific separation differentiation of the cells. Similarly, from the adipose, fat grafting, each and every plastic surgeon is doing for the augmentation, either breast augmentation or buttock augmentation or aesthetic purposes. So fat will give you the many source, microfragmented adipose tissue. The commercial terminology by Dr. Tonard et al. Is the nanofats. Then you get the stromal vascular fraction as a pellet. And mesenchymal stem cells is a part of the culture, is a part of the clinical trial. Once you are culturing the stromal vascular fraction, then you are getting the mesenchymal stem cells. No doubt, these are highly immunomodulatory, highly anti-apoptotic, anti-fibrotic properties, but that's a part of the clinical trial. Up to fat grafting, microfragmented adipose, you can homogenize cells. You can do the ultrasonication, you can do the mechanical mixing of the cells. That's a part of a permissible. Apart from that, all are the part of the clinical trials. These are the some of the exosome-based clinical trial studies still did in various neurodegenerative or aging disease, like from Alzheimer to glioblastoma to neurodegenerative condition, multiple sclerosis, even degenerative osteoarthritis. So these all are the MSc origin, and these are some of the outcomes I have cited. I'll share this presentation to Sarda ma'am. If anyone make their interest, they can ask from the ma'am. Anti-inflammation and immunomodulation by mesenchymal stem cells, because it's a core property. That's why it's used in a degenerative conditions. It works like a various cellular pathways. See, if we are using stem cells or any cells, the primary things the macrophage acts. They do the phagocytosis, then they cannot, if they are not able to control, they send the signal to the natural killer cells. Natural killer cells send the signal to the second line of defense. Boss, I'm not handling, now you should handle. They give the same signal to the TS1 cells, basically helper T cells, and then they goes to the further and the various cascade and the antibody productions. So similarly, once this is the antigenic pathway, similarly it immunomodulate. It modulate in case of the autoimmune conditions because it exhibits the property of the antifibrotic, anti-apoptosis, and many others. Then how it contributes in case of anti-aging of the mesenchymal stem cells, as it exhibits the property of anti-fibrosis, and it also controls the inflammation, and it induces the neoangiogenesis, neocollagenesis. It's widely used nowadays. Many groups are came up with, even if you'll see the platelet-rich plasma practiced in each and every clinic. But mesenchymal stem cells, because once you are centrifuging the fat, it's a cocktail. Although it's a fat microfragmented adipose tissue, you have not separated mesenchymal pure population, but it contains the endothelial cells, it contains the stromal vascular cells, it contains the pericytes. So it's a basically cocktail of cells. So it works on the, basically, if you'll see the aging defined as irreversible deterioration of physiological process of organism over time, is characterized by 9 hallmarks: cellular senescence, mitochondrial dysfunction, dysregulated nutrient sensing, epigenetic alterations, telomere attritions, genomic instability, altered intercellular communications, and stem cell exhaustion. This is what happened in case of anti-aging. So this is how stem cell, mesenchymal stem cells based exosome controls. They do the immunomodulations, they delay the cellular senescence, and how telomere and genomic instability, that's a part of the epigenetics in the later of the slides. So if you'll see exosome, it increases in the number of extracellular vesicles which release during senescence of fibroblast, epithelial cells, and cancer cells, and a decrease in level of circulating extracellular vesicles, at least from 30 to 60s in humans. So after 30s, it started declining. So that's why for that, you need to boost up with the antioxidant, restrict the calorie, restrict the sugar, because then have the control onto the SIRT1 and many other regime. So then many other applications, some of the applications here like exosome-induced hair growth. Even if you can compare my photograph in the Google, like most of the time, like nowadays many other technology like Regenera Activa, they are taking the bulbar cells, culturing for 4 hours and giving similarly adipose derived stromal vascular fractions. From there you can say take the dermal papillary exosome and you can just inject the subcutaneous or intradermal or subdermal into the scalp. So many other regime, especially from the exosome or pericyte based in hair growth. Then applications part of this, like many other applications apart from this aging disease, if you'll see, like inducing synthesis of and proliferation of fibroblast and persuases causing cytokines. It reduces the inflammation. It inducing the regeneration of epidermal skin barrier by increasing synthesis of ceramides, dihydroceramides, sphingosine, and many others. Then these are some of the role in the cardiac disease like cardiomyocyte hypertrophy, peripartum cardiomyopathy, or sepsis-induced cardiomyopathy. Nowadays, many group, one of our collaborator from one of the New Zealand-based cardiologists, they are our collaborator in UAE, and they are working through the NOGA catheter setup with adipose stem cells, basically for MI, myocardial infarction, as well as the ischemic cardiomyopathy. Still, it's under research, and these are the results of some of the group which are cited here, Dr. Aliabadi group. This paper is already published. So if you'll see here, biology of aging, this is how we age. So how epigenetics contribute to the aging? Epigenetics at name is clear, beyond genetics. So beyond genetics, this is another trend apart from the exosome. It shows you how your behavior and environment can cause changes that affect the way your gene works. That means how your lifestyle, how you are living, these all stochastic factor, even lifestyle, stochastic factor, these all unlike genetic changes, epigenetic changes, and sometimes it's epigenetic changes are reversible and do not change your DNA sequence, but they can change how your body reads a DNA sequence. So these gene expression refer to how often or when proteins are created from the instruction.
I think he's disconnected.
Yes, ma'am.
Prabhu, are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. So while genetic changes can alter which protein is made, epigenetic changes affect gene expression to turn gene on and off. And that's how these many 5 drugs are already approved into the market for CAR T-based therapy, chimeric antigen receptor T cell, and many other gene-based therapy under the pipeline, if you'll see the Escarta and many others into the market. So since your environment and behavior such as diet and exercise can result in epigenetic changes, it is easy to see the connection between your gene and your behavior and environment. Then epigenetics, I'm not going to talk much more technical aspects of the epigenetics because it's a huge topic, the DNA methylation, histone modification. So I'm not going to talk, but in a nutshell, if you'll see how epigenetic, nowadays in market, epigenetic diet came, epigenetic nutrigenomics, epigenetics. So most of the group nowadays, they are taking the saliva, they are doing the whole genome sequence. On the basis of that, on the basis of the repetitive mutation, you can predict in future coming 10 years, which kind of onsets is going to happen. So on the basis of that, you can modify their diet, modify their lifestyle. And this epigenetic drift basically regulate the cell proliferation, DNA empty fidelity, DNA damage repair, inflammation, and the modifier like human microbiome, gut microbiome, environmental factors like nutrition, alcohol, chemical exposure, lifestyle, etc., etc. Then telomere. Nowadays, you can also go for the telomere sequencing is done by the many groups, Map My Genome and many other companies are doing the telomere sequence. So telomere, we all know one of the chromosomal tiny end of the chromosome. It allows cells to divide without losing genes. Each time a cell divides, the telomere gets shorter. When they get too short, the cell can no longer divide. It becomes inactive or senescent or it dies. So with the telomere, chromosome A could fuse together and corrupt the cell's genetic blueprint, possibly causing malfunction, cancer, or cell death. So telomeres is one of the culprits for faster aging. And nowadays, telomere sequencing is also done. You can predict what is the rate of the telomere division and how fast you are aging. Then the telomerase is the enzyme which reverses aging. Like sperm and egg cells, the enzyme telomerase restores telomeres to the ends of chromosome. This telomere lengthening ensures that the cells can continue to safely divide and multiply. Aging biologists are investigating whether human telomere length is associated with lifespan, health span, or both. In one study, researchers analyzing DNA samples from centenarians found that the telomeres of healthy centenarians were significantly longer than those of unhealthy centenarians. So then another role of the metabolism. We all eat food or breathe. 2 vital elements, both gives the glucose from the food or oxygen from the air, which contributes the energy. And this energy gives to the metabolism is all about energy. So metabolic activities sustain life or cause metabolic stress. And this stress damages body produce free radical by oxidation process, which leads to the faster aging, like metabolizing food or overeating. Metabolizing food creates stress on human body, or overeating more stress on the body. So lead to a shorter lifespan and serious health problems. So that's why switch your diet, break your diet. Don't like 500, 400 gram in a time. It's better break your meal duration, shorter your duration of the meal, but the doses will be the very short. Because these produce the free radical, and this free radical causes oxidative stress, and this oxidative stress correlates each and every organs of the body. Then some of the genetic factors affecting aging process, like environmental factor, smoking, pesticides, hereditary factor like genotype, mitochondrial DNA variations, some extrinsic and intrinsic factor which damages source, and some stochastic factor. This both leads to the genomic DNA alteration or mitochondrial DNA alterations. And this further leads to the decline in somatic stem cell function, which leads to the faster aging, like metabolic disease like diabetes, obesity, autoimmunity, high increase in the bad cholesterol, neurological conditions like dementia, stroke, movement disorder, cancer, etc. Then another, when we age, our stem cells differentiation capacity decline. So this is another is, and stem cells, we all know, stem cells have the inherent property of self-renew. It differentiates into the desired cells and tissues. So once we age, our cell proliferation rate also slow down. So basically, it should also be reactivated, because when we age, once their work is done, they are derived from progenitor to their differentiated cells. They goes to their resting phase. So a stem cell basically is a generic cells that can make exact copies of itself indefinitely. And we all know like many property like totipotent, pluripotent, multipotent, 1 to 3 days of embryo. Totipotent 2 to 16 weeks is pluripotent, which is also called embryonic stem cells. After 16 weeks, once organogenesis happens, all cells are adult stem cells, either cord blood, cord tissue, wart and jelly, bone marrow, adipose, dental pulp. And so these all are source of adult stem cells. And sorry. So these are some of the unique properties. So in nutshells, the holistic approach, if you'll see the promises of aging and longevity is boost your stem cells, live your good lifestyle, and restrict your calorie, and always consult your doctor, the primary doctor. Thank you very much. And these are the promises of a stem cell and regenerative medicine in future in many aging or degenerative conditions. Stem cells are still experimental for many of the conditions. For aging disease, somehow it manages quite well. It's a combinational approach. 50% lifestyle contributes, 50% all stem cells, bioidentical hormones, your exercise, calorie restrictions, nutrigenomics, these all. So this is what the little advances like exosome, epigenetics in this current trend of longevity and aging. Hope and thank you very much. We can have some of the questions from all of your sides. Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you.
Let's have comments from the Dr. Harish Gupta, Dr. Yogesh Agarwal.
Really, Madam, a scintillating talk. I think it is going deep into the many things are absolutely new to us. We have really seen how the research is going on into the anti-aging areas. And it is not only the anti-aging areas, I think it is going to be very useful in the areas like Dr. Sahab has told about the myocardial infarction, dilated cardiomyopathy, and the things we are researching on more such issues. I think this research is very wonderful, and it's a very detailed subject which he has been able to put us in a nutshell. But I'd like to ask him about what are the practical implications, how do we advise our patients, and how do we advise that what are the, he has talked about certain drugs also, that certain drugs are available to help the, in which clinical situations we can use those drugs to be practically useful right at this stage so that we can help the patients. And one more area we have seen it, that the area of basically the baldness or alopecia, in this case also, these new researches are very useful, and we have seen that PRP-like therapies, they are of much more use in hair restoration. So I think this is a vast area, and we hope soon it will be of immense use to the patients. So please elaborate how we can rightly at this stage, we can advise our patients and benefit our patients from all the researches which are going on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I think, let's take one or more comments from the experts and then you will answer. Dr. Yogesh, Dr. Singhal. Yes, go ahead, Doctor. I just wish to comment here that, the people who are listening are excited about smart anti-aging and how to age gracefully. He has, in a very nutshell, has tried to say that 50% thing is your lifestyle. And your lifestyle only includes holistic treatment of yourself and drastically cutting your calories. Your calories should be coming 75% from your fruits and vegetables. Concentration from your cereals should be less and less and less. And it has to be coupled with your yoga, meditation, and other things. There also comes your attitude of helping other people also. That is also extremely important. He talked about epigenetics. Epigenetics is all in your mind. Now, with sequencing, one can come to know at what particular age you are going to get infected with what particular problem, and they modify your diet accordingly. To myself, there is a substance into it. But at this particular stage, they are very costly. If you change your attitude and you say all is well with you, try to involve yourself with positive things, you'll find that you will not get into neurodegenerative disorders. You will not get into that kind of problems. It's a great future, and I'm sure anti-aging, the people who are listening us should definitely develop interest in smart anti-aging and what is coming in front of this. Now we find in this country, as far as India is concerned, we are the country who is capital in heart attacks. It's capital in all metabolic disorders. So I think this time has come that we should start thinking on this particular lines. And next time when Dr. Prabhu talks, he should talk for ordinary people. Today, his lecture had been really totally scientific, talking on the various areas of anti-aging and smart anti-aging, what all has come. I think we will listen more from him. So any last minute from anybody? Dr. Dipti, you want to make any comment? Unmute yourself.
So, ma'am, waiting for Dr. Prabhu Mishra, like you commented, it was very difficult, very scientific. So he has make it a little easier for
yes,
easier to understand. There were many technical jargon, which was anyway. But Dr. Mishra will tell us the most common thing which people come to us is for hair fall, balding, and skin wrinkling. So how can regenerative medicine help us? How do we guide them?
Nowadays, first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Harish sir, Sarda ma'am, and to you, ma'am. See, if you'll see this, especially for androgenic alopecia, I'm not talking about the Arieta. Arieta PRP doesn't show any promising results. Many groups are doing the clinical trials with adipose-derived stem cells in case of Arieta, systemic as well as the local. But in androgenic alopecia, if you'll see the most of the time, I think it's a very rare, shows the increase in the density. But definitely it gives you the fuller, basically it strengthens the bulbar or dermal papillary cells. Practically, if we'll talk about that, in case of, no doubt, in earlier stages, sometimes it retains the density, it retains from the fall, and most of the time nowadays, many kits are available. They are combining with biotin based.
Dr. Harish, I can definitely summarize it. Prabhu is the perfect example. He was bald. Look at his hair today.
That's good.
I think we will come to close on this, Deepti. You want to say something, and then we get into the second presentation.
Excellent.
He's the perfect example, sir.
Yes, that's like I said, he's a living advertisement of his own subject.